that this is real, what you're experiencing is real. And it's typically not something that we experience during our normal waking lives. We say, oh yeah, of course, what we're experiencing right now is real. And some people will say, well, how do you know it's real? What if this is like the Matrix, And that's possible. But that same logic applies to these other levels of experience too. So, in my experience, astral projection is, if anything, more real than this level of reality, just because uh, it seems like when you're disconnected from the body, that just decreases, it like kind of almost eliminates this barrier that we have to a higher level of our existence that you experience during these higher levels of consciousness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. You're like more kind of like, how can I phrase this? In our physical reality, we're all these bubbles that are on top of a pool, right? But when you astral project, you get to go inside of the pool actually, and you're not just a bubble anymore.
Sure.
And you're kind of immersed in like the real reality, not that bubble individualistic reality in a sense. At least that's probably that's kind of the way that I am conceptualizing what you explained to me.
That's cool. I like that analogy. And based on my experience, to take that a step further, I would say that in this physical world, we're the bubble, like on the surface of the pool, and during the astral projection, the bubble pops, and really we're the air in that bubble. And when the bubble pops, we're free, and we experience like this kind of unification with this like higher level of reality. It's kind of like that.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. And you're kind of immersed in it. And do you find any like loss? Like, how would you define the self?
And the self is very complex. I'm going to say this a lot because like the more you have these experiences, like it's kind of like that saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. Yeah, it's like that, with this. So the self, in some of my like most profound out of body experiences, I've merged or integrated with what I call, and what is typically called, the higher self. And essentially what the higher self is like the highest level, or like the highest state of your spiritual being. And the idea is that typically, we're only aware of who we are in this life, but that is only a small aspect of our total state of consciousness. Like, we actually exist at a higher level as a much more expansive, a much greater entity, conscious entity. And so that's what we call the higher self. And the higher self, in a sense, incarnates into this world as multiple different people, different personalities, different individuals. But it's not quite like the Buddhist concept of reincarnation, where like you die and then you're reborn in a new body, and then that dies and you keep going. But it's like we're having all of these independent existences as different individuals, but at a higher level, we're all connected. But like, it's not me who's being born into a new body. It's a totally different like individual, but we're connected at this higher level. And so in these experiences with the higher self, you experience this, like you experience this unification with all of these other individuals. And but it's not only that, it's like you experience the state of being this higher level of consciousness, and it's basically a state of just like complete bliss. and joy and love and like unification with everything. And it's such a like a profound and intense experience. Sometimes like it's too much. Like you can't stay in that state for very long, because it feels like who you are is just like disintegrating, and like you're just going to explode and just like never
Yeah.
come back together. You know what I mean?